Hey everyone, my name's Curtis, and last year I made a video for FM17 to kind of show how the Wonderkids turned out 10 years in the future, and well, for FM18 I'm going to be doing the same. I simulated to the year 2027 with every single league loaded and basically every single player loaded as well. In my save, I have roughly 200,000 players loaded, and it took me about a full week to simulate this game to where I am now. I did this in hopes to have my results as authentic as they could be, and I know like sometimes if you don't have some leagues loaded, their transfers and just the AI managers in general aren't as realistic or reliable for the data that they give you. But do keep in mind that my game's results are going to be most likely vastly different compared to your game save, but there's still a lot of useful information that we can get from this. Okay, so for this video in particular, I'm only going to be covering the Wonderkids that have turned out the best of the best in the year 2027. So I'm not in later videos, I'm probably going to be covering like some really cheap Wonderkids that turned out amazingly well and basically just like really good bargains. But for this video, we're only going to be covering the best of the best. So most of these players may not even be buyable. For instance, this very first player we'll be covering, Kylian Mbappe. He's basically unsignable at the beginning of the game since he's on loan. But basically the criteria I set for a player to make my list for this video, they either had to have a player value of 60 million pounds or more, or 200,000 pounds per week salary that they're being paid. I'll also mention how much these players can be bought for at the beginning of the game, but I will mention that this is the beta build, so a future version of the game could throw out these transfer fees and have them completely different in the future. So just keep in mind that these transfer fees may be wrong in future versions, but hopefully they're pretty accurate for this the beta version at least. Okay, but let's go ahead and jump into our first player, and this is going to be the first player that I'm going to go ahead and say is the best Wonderkid in the game. You're probably not going to be able to buy him because he's going to be basically unsignable at the beginning of the game due to being on loan with PSG. Because if we see here, 2017 to 2018, he's on loan, so you basically can't buy him. But just look at this average rating. He's getting, for a whole season, an over 8 average rating. That is perfect, basically. I'm going to go and say that's absolutely perfect. You're definitely, if you're playing PSG, you're going to want to keep him on your team forever. He's going to be, I guess eventually once it's Messi, Neymar, and Ronaldo, once as they retire, I'm going to go ahead and say he's going to turn into the best player in the game, unless if a regen turns out better than him. But yeah, he is amazing. In 2027, he's a value of 86 million pounds. Look at his goals. He gets 223 goals in 338 appearances, and then for his country, he's get 50 goals and 114 caps. Just an absolutely beast of a player. If for some reason you're able to sign him in your playthrough, definitely do it because he will turn out to be the best player in your game. And now for our next player, we'll go to Marcus Rashford, who I will go ahead and say is the best English Wonderkid. He's not as well-rounded as Kylian is, but still he's very good in his own right. He does what he needs to do as a striker, and that's score goals. He's not as good of a goal scorer as Kylian, but then he's also not on as powerhouse of a team as PSG is. But still, Manchester United, a very good team. He's getting 178 goals in 388 appearances, 45 goals and 100 caps. And if we look at his history, he stays on Manchester United for his whole career. Well, at least up until this point. And he's not quite getting to the 8 or higher average rating that Kylian does, but he's still getting 7s and aboves, which is very good, I would say. It's not quite as high as you'd expect him to be for this highly of a valued player, because on my save, he's 85 million pounds valued. And that could just be because he's an English player and they're valued more highly. But yeah, he's still a very good player. As you can see, very good technically in all the areas he needs to be. Mentally, he's high on all the areas he needs to be, and same with physical. So very good player. If you're able to buy him, do it. And for his value at the beginning of the game, you're going to expect to pay about 100 million pounds or more. So unless if you're on a completely loaded team in terms of money, you're not really going to be able to buy this player, unless if for some reason later on in your playthrough you can pick him up, then I would definitely recommend it because he turns out to be a pretty good striker. Our next player is I will mention I'm probably going to butcher a ton of these names, but let's go and try this one. Kai Havertz. So he is a German player, and he plays for Bayern Munich, and he's just a really well-rounded attacking midfielder. And, I mean, physically, he's very gifted. Mentally, he's very gifted as well. And then technically, he's not like really, really good in a single area, but he's got like just everything covered that he needs to be covered in for an attacking midfielder. So just a really, really strong midfielder. Not going to score you any goals, not going to score you too many goals, I should say. And if we look at his history, he actually started out in Leverkusen and then eventually went into Bayern Munich in 2022, it looks like. And his average rating is pretty good. Like once he joined Bayern Munich, he started to perform a little bit better than he did in Leverkusen, which is to be expected. He's on a better team. And if you are going to be looking to buy this player, he's going to run you about £100 million or more. So once again, you're probably not going to be able to buy him. Okay, so for our next player, we have Moise Kean. If you're interested in buying this player, he's going to cost you about £25 million at the beginning of the game, which I'll go ahead and say is a worthy investment if you have the money. If you're a bigger team, I would definitely say try to pick this guy up because, as you can see, for his attributes, he turns out insanely well and he performs. Because look at the amount of goals he's scoring for his teams and his country. 48 goals and 69 caps. Really, really good. And if you look at his average rating, he's getting about 7.5 rating over a season, which you can't expect too much better unless you're Kylian Mbappe. So definitely for £25 million, if you can get him for that cheap, maybe £30 million, I would say do it. Definitely pull the trigger on that one. And now for our next player, we got Pietro Pellegri. If you're looking to buy this player, he's going to cost you about, if I'm seeing this right, about £3 million in the beginning of the game. If you can actually land that deal, do it. This guy is amazing. I know, like, technically he's not as gifted as the other players we've been covering, but holy crap, look at how he performs goal scoring wise. Like, in 32 appearances, he scored 24 goals in 2024 for Leverkusen, and average rating, he's doing very well as well. And if we go back to his overall here, you can see for country, he's scoring 40 goals and 50 caps. So he knows how to score goals. This guy will score your goals if you pick him up. And for £3 million, if you can get him for that, it's an absolute steal. And for our next player, we're going to be going over Federico Chiesa. Forgive me for pronouncing these names. I'm absolutely awful at it, I know. If you can see this guy, he's a winger, so he's not quite a striker. He could play a striker if he wanted to, but I would definitely say he's probably better as a winger since his finishing's not quite as high, and he's not very good at heading. So I would say putting him out on the wide areas for attacking would be your best bet. If you want to purchase this guy, he's going to cost you about £35 million, and I will go ahead and say he does have good attributes, but for a £71 million valued player, I will say it's a little bit of low attributes. Let's go and look at his history here. Basically, he starts a game on Fiorentina and then eventually goes to Monaco, where, wow, he started out really kind of mediocre, but then lately, okay, I see. The most recent season, he performed really, really well at a 7.5 average rating. So that's probably what boosted him up a little bit. Still a very good player. For $35 million, I will say you could probably get a bit better deals. But let's go ahead and get to our next player, which will be Christian Pulisic. And it looks like he actually joins Bayern Munich. And he's a very good player as well. If you're looking to buy him, he's about £35 million at the beginning of the game. I wouldn't say it's a must-buy or anything, but if you want to have him on your team, he's a very good winger, and he's definitely worth the buy if you have the money, I would say. Average rating is a little bit on the lower end, but you can't really complain with a 7.3. And Dortmund bought him in 2018 for £44.5 million, which isn't bad at all. So, I mean, he turns out very well. Pace, yeah. I mean, balance, maybe you'd want a little bit higher, but it's not really that critical. Everything else, like the stats that you kind of need him to be decent at, he's decent at. I would like long shots to be a little higher if he's playing kind of not as a striker, just to maybe help you score goals. But he looks to be kind of an assist person. He's going to be passing to your strikers. And as you can see, it actually turns out to be that's what he's doing. He's getting 14 assists in a season. Last season, he got 13 assists. So he's performing at what you need him to do for your team. Next up, we've got Andrea Pinamonti. And now this guy I looked at him earlier, and he actually has some interesting things going on with him. So as we see in his career stats, he joined Bayern Munich, and he's got 80 goals and 103 appearances. And you look at that and you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And it really is. It is amazing. But then if we look at the league down here and keep notice of the parentheses. Parentheses is if there's a subbed player, which means they didn't start the match. We'll see. Okay, so he had 11 starts and then 9 subbed in appearances. And then for this, okay, he did start basically the full season for that. Okay, so he was the starter. Just the last 2 years, he really hasn't been the starter. But to be 11 starts and only 9, and then 9 games where he comes in halfway through the game or whenever they sub him in, he's getting 15 goals out of those 20 or so appearances. That is really well. Like that's performing. He's basically a super sub. This guy's a super sub, which is kind of crazy because he's a 70 million pound super sub. And I guess that's what Bayern Munich wants to use him as. But when you're a team like Bayern Munich, you can probably afford to do that. If we look at him, he's just a really well-rounded striker. He's probably not going to be too well out on the wings. So I think putting him in as a striker is a very good call because he can even head the ball in. So he's multifaceted as a striker because he's good with his feet, good with the head. He's good with everything. Oh, and before I forget, if you want to buy this player at the beginning of the game, you can expect to pay about 20 million pounds. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into our next player, which will be Ousmane Dembele. Now, Ousmane Dembele is on Barcelona, and he's virtually unsignable at the beginning of the game. So don't even bother. Like, unless if you have an insane amount of money, unless if you gift yourself money from like the FM editor or whatever it is, you're probably not going to be able to buy this player. But technically, look at this guy. Phenomenal. And then physically phenomenal. Mentally, I'm going to go ahead and say he's kind of poor. But, I mean, he's got the flair and off the ball. So he's got the attacking-minded mentals that you like to see. But then the rest of them that can help support him to be like the one of the best players in the game are a little bit low. And if we look, he's not that good of a goal scorer. He's only scored, it's still a lot of goals to be. 83 goals in 353 appearances. And if we look, assist-wise, he does get 2 years ago, he had 12 assists, which is pretty decent. But average rating is surprisingly mediocre. Like his most recent season in my playthrough, he's only had a 6.98 average rating. That's for being on Barcelona. I'm going to go and say not that great. So obviously this guy's not that worth it if you're looking for a player because he's going to cost you a bonkers amount of money unless if for some reason he goes down in price over your playthrough. But I would just say skip on this one if you're looking to buy a Wonderkid. Okay, so for our next player, we're going to go over Gabriel Jesus. And if you want a Gabriel Jesus on your team, you're going to be looking to spend about 100 million pounds. And for good reason, though, because, I mean, he's really well-rounded for a striker. He can do basically what you need him to do, which is score goals. And he's getting over a 7.5 average rating in some of the season. Well, actually just one season. But still a pretty good player. He starts out on Man City at the beginning of the game, and then he ends up going to, Real Madrid for 151 million pounds. Not a cheap player, not at all. But, I mean, as you can see, it turns out pretty well. Okay, for our next player, which is going to be a name I'm going to completely butcher. It's Amadou Diawara, maybe. But yeah, our first defensive player. And if you're worth 68 million pounds as a defensive player, then you're doing something right. Now, he may not be best as a center back, which he could play if you needed him to, but I would say probably a defensive midfielder is what you're going to be looking to play him as. And holy crap, he's on a 300 million pound per week contract. I mean, this is 2027, so the inflation's probably jumped these prices up. But he's basically got all the attributes you want him to have as a defensive midfielder. Passing's at a 16, just a very good. Let's look at his history. He goes from Napoli to Barcelona to Man City, and just not over the top average ratings, but I mean, he's a midfielder. Their average ratings usually aren't that over the top, but you can tell this guy probably does it all defensively in the midfield for you. So, oh yeah, and if you want to purchase this guy, he's about 35 million pounds at the beginning of the game. So I would say that's worth it if you're looking for a midfielder that is defensively minded. Okay, for our next player, we're going to go down the list actually a little bit, and we're going to go to another player that I'm going to really butcher their name on, and that's Matthijs de Ligt. Okay, I definitely got that one wrong. But this guy, I'm going to go ahead and say, is probably the best center back for a Wonderkid in the game. Look at him. He's 27 years old, so he still has a lot of playing time. And look at these stats. Or not stats, but attributes. Holy God. Heading at 16, marking at 16, passing at 16, tackling at 16. Like, the 3 or 4, you don't even need passing as a center back, but he has it just to make him an even more well-rounded player, because mentally he's got it all figured out. Physically he's got it all figured out. He's got everything figured out. He's a beast as a center back. You need him on your team if you're able to buy him, and he's going to cost you about 15 million pounds, which I think is an absolute bargain for one of the best Wonderkids that's a center back. But let's get to our next player, who we're going to go over. Let's see if I can find him here. Yep, here he is. Andrea Zivkovic, and you probably saw earlier for the Ballon d'Ors that he is basically a run-up. I think he was a runner-up Ballon d'Or 1 or 2 times. I forget. But anyway, this guy has insane attributes. I'm surprised he's not valued. Well, I guess he is valued 59 million, which is pretty high for a 30-year-old. He's on a 300,000 pound per week salary. And let's see how he performs. I'm actually not. Oh, okay. This guy performs. A 7.8 average rating. No wonder I put him on the list to show you guys. That is insane. So he actually went to Arsenal for a 3-year span, and then eventually went to Real Madrid, where he's been balling it out. Holy crap. No wonder he's a Ballon d'Or runner-up. Okay. This guy at the beginning of your save is going to cost 53 million pounds, because I think that's his release clause. If you're a big team and you're looking for somebody that isn't Kylian Mbappe, this is your guy. He is very good. I didn't realize how good he was until I started looking at these stats, actually. Holy crap. And look at this. He's actually a decent goal scorer as a winger. So he's not a striker, but he is a winger that can score goals. He's getting 70 goals in 166 appearances. That is definitely nothing to scoff at. And look at this. He's actually getting a decent amount of assists as well. This most recent season in this game, he's gotten 15 assists. And player of the match, 9 player of the matches. Insane. Definitely worth the 53 million if you're able to spend it. So basically, I'm only talking to like really rich clubs, like a Manchester United, Real Madrid, and any of those type of teams. But for our next player, you guys are probably familiar with this guy in real life. He's been scoring like insane goals in the past like couple months. And that is Marco Asensio. And it looks like he joined PSG in this save. But holy crap, look at those technicals. They're absolutely perfect. Like, obviously they're not 20, which would be perfect. But like, that is insane. In 18 long shots, finishing is at an 18. So he's not even a striker, but his finishing is at an 18, which is for good reason. This guy's scoring insane goals in real life, and probably in this game too. Physically, he's not the highest physically fit player, but I mean, honestly, you don't really need him to be when he's this technically gifted. And let's look at his history here. Wow, that's actually pretty good. For an attacking midfielder to get these kind of average ratings and assists and goals, he's very, very good in the midfield. This guy, okay, so if you want to buy this guy, I'm sorry, but you're basically not going to be able to. I think he's got something like some insanely high number for a release clause on Real Madrid at the start of the game, so you're most likely not going to be able to buy this player. PSG had to fork over 156 million pounds in 2020. So maybe you can get that kind of deal for your save, and if you're able to, I would definitely take it, because I know even though that's a lot of money, this guy's insane. But let's get to the next player. We actually only have 2 more players to go that I'm going to be covering in this video, and that's going to be Jesus Vallejo, who has insane mentals with a determination of 20, a marking of 18, tackling of 17. Okay, well, actually, I'm very close to naming him the best center back wonderkid in the game. Like, that is insane. Let's go ahead and look at his history here. Oh, okay. This guy is the best center back wonderkid in the game. Look at those average ratings. I mean, yeah, he's on Real Madrid, but come on. That is insane. A 7.7 or higher virtually every season as a center back? Good Lord. Okay. If you want to buy this guy, he's going to cost you about 83 million pounds. I think that's what his release clause is. And I hate to say he's worth it at 83 million pounds. So I'm not, no, I can't. 83 million pounds is an insane amount of money, but he's close to worth it. I mean, holy crap. He's going to turn into the best center back in the game. That's not a regen. But for our last player, and he's actually the player that I named the best wonderkid last year in FM 2017, and that's Gianluigi Donnarumma. And he turns out, once again, well, he's easily the best goalkeeper wonderkid in the game. That's bar none. I wouldn't say he's the best wonderkid in this one because Kylian Mbappe is ridiculously insane. But yeah, if you're looking for a really good goalkeeper and you want to buy him, he's going to be about 67 million pounds. I'm pretty sure that's his release clause at the beginning of the game. But yeah, he's going to be guaranteed a starter for your team for years and years to come because he's really young at the beginning of the game. And if you're able to fork over the money, like look at this. Okay, well, it was 2021, but yeah, Real Madrid got him for 40.5 million pounds, which I think is an absolute steal because he's still 28 years old, and a goalkeeper can usually play to their like late 30s if they want to. But yeah, if you're looking for a guaranteed best goalkeeper in your save that isn't a regen, this is the guy. And you will notice there's a lot more people on this, and some of them could even be better than the ones that I've shown you. I just wanted to show you, I guess, just a sneak peek of some of the best players in my save. And I will be posting this short list in the description below this video. So if you're interested in the rest of these 45 players, then I will be posting the short list in case you want to, if you're interested in buying any of these or just kind of just knowing who the best wonderkids are going to be for FM 2018. But I will be covering in a future video some of the cheaper options in case you're looking for some bargains. And I mean, for this particular list that I went over, the Pietro Pellegri, who is only about 3 million pounds, that's an absolute steal. His attributes aren't as high as some of the other players, but he performs, as I told you before. Another really good signing that I went over, I would say, would be the Matthijs. Where's his name? Matthijs de Ligt. He's going to be one of the best center backs. It's either him or Jesus Vallejo. I don't know. Both of them are... Actually, speaking of that, let's compare those two players right now. Jesus Vallejo versus Matthijs. I'm just curious. So if we look at the little diagram here, or whatever they call this, we'll see that Matthijs is better aerially, but then Jesus has him mentally and defending. And actually, Matthijs is a bit more well-rounded because look at this. He's got the attacking division. Wait, attacking you don't really need as a center back, but I guess he can fill that role, kind of like a Gerard Piqué type role if you need him to, which is really nice to have on your team. But if we just compare them attribute to attribute, mentally, definitely Jesus is better. Physically, Matthijs is definitely better. And then technically, they're almost about even. Like, obviously, marking's beneficial to Jesus. But honestly, this is close. I mean, these two players, Matthijs... Okay, so Matthijs you can get for 15 million pounds, or roughly about that. So maybe 20 million pounds. Jesus, you're going to be looking to spend 83 million pounds. Definitely Matthijs is a better deal if you're looking for someone to buy, and you're going to know he's going to turn out really, really well. But yeah, that's going to be the end of this video, guys. And if there is a player you would like me to show the stats or attributes of in my playthrough, just leave a comment down below and I'll try to either show him in the next video or just post a screenshot of him in the comment section. But yeah, thanks for watching and I'll see you guys in my next video.